guy's not gonna make it.
You know, besides the financial standpoint, docking is going to be one of the most stressful things you do while boating. If you're not careful, your embarrassment is going to be someone else's entertainment, or worse, an insurance claim. Let's work on this. Boating is supposed to be a relaxing and joyful experience, like so. However, it can only be like that if you know what you're doing. Before you approach your dock, there's a number of things you should think about. Like, where are you going to park this thing? Are you going to a private dock or a marina? If you're going to a marina, you want to radio in, Marina, this is Nutcracker. Is there any space available for a 19-footer for one night? And then they'll radio back if they have a space available, and they'll give you the section and slip that you need to go to, along with the correct tie-off, port or starboard side. Now that you know where you're docking, it's time to prep the lines and fenders, also referred to as bumpers. You put on fenders or bumpers to avoid scratching or damaging the sides of your vessel when you tie onto the dock. When you prep your lines, you want the loop end to be tied onto the boat cleat, leaving the opposite end to be tied onto the dock cleat. Next, you want to follow the channel in, marked by the red and green buoys. This is important because if you go outside of them, you'll end up beaching the boat and or scratching the hull, but since we're here at Lake Erie, you're more likely going to put a hole in the hull. And trust me, if you make that mistake, you're not going to make it again. Let's just briefly talk about some boating etiquette. If you're on someone else's boat, the least you could do is help out with the bumpers and lines. Maybe buy your captain a drink when you're done, because gas is not cheap nowadays. And if you see someone coming into a dock slip and you're already there, don't watch them and hope they make a mistake. Ask if they need some help. And specifically, if there is dock hands, make sure you tip the guys. Don't be a schmuck and not tip. All right, now that your boat's prepped to dock, there's one last thing we must discuss. This is your boat hook, your foretell sign that you're an amateur boater or you don't know what you're doing. Nah, I'm just kidding. Sometimes the most experienced captains will have to use this in adverse weather conditions to help them either keep off of boats and pull them closer to the dock by grabbing onto a cleat with the hook. I would suggest, if you have to use it, swallow your pride and do it, because it's better than damaging your boat or someone else's. Okay, by now you should be in a no-wake zone, traveling at an idling speed, causing no wake off the back of the boat. Now that your speed's in check, you want to gauge the wind and current of the lake. You'll usually have a good idea of this when you pull into the marina. However, if you need to do a couple dry runs to see which way your vessel will be pulled, I suggest doing that, but staying away from any obstacles or other boats. And we are on a lake, so we're landlocked and there's marina walls, so you shouldn't be dealing with too harsh of conditions while docking. Some docks are not well maintained and will have a buildup of algae or seaweed. In this case, you want to hire your trim to avoid getting caught in the thick of it. You could have to clear the prop before next use or before you even start docking. With the trim being raised, you're going to have less pull in the water because the prop will have less and less water pressure to grab onto. Just be mindful, you're going to have less control steering your vessel when the prop is raised. You're almost there. Next, align your boat adjacent or parallel to the dock slip you're going in at. Get a comfortable speed to go in, put it in neutral, and then boats don't necessarily have brakes. So to stop it, you'll have to throw it in reverse to cancel out your forward momentum, or have a dock hand grab the line to stop the boat physically. If you do have any crew members on the boat, it's important they don't jump ship before the captain is done maneuvering it. This can cause the vessel to go into another boat or the dock itself, and might make the captain realign for the docking procedure all over again. Now that you're docked, you want to tie it off. More often than not, you're going to be tying off onto a floating dock, but sometimes the docks will be fixed and or have a finger slip. Finger slips are essentially just large poles that come out of the water and you just tie around instead of onto a cleat. And I'm sure that you're strong, but you don't need to pull the boat with all your strength. You could just use the cleat and use it as leverage to pull. And remember, you don't want these lines to be so tight that your bumpers are rubbing against the dock constantly. You want to keep a nice tension, so just in case the boat comes into the dock, it just pushes it right back out. Now, if you are on the ocean, it is important that you have the proper tension in your lines to adjust for water levels and the changing tides. If you fail to do this, your boat could end up capsized or even underneath the dock. Wrap the line around the outer part of the cleat, then cross over the top and back underneath the other side, making a figure 8 pattern. Turn the line over and make a loop with the loose end underneath the line that is coming directly off the cleat and wrap it around the opposite side of the initial crossover. Before I let you go, let's talk about docking alternatives. You can also beach your boat. You typically see this with smaller vessels, more often than not pontoons, because to unbeach them, you will physically have to push them out into deeper water. And if you're beaching your boat on the ocean, it's important to know your tides, because the last thing you want is to beach your boat during a high tide and then the low tide come in and your boat is all the way up there. You're stuck in the sand there, bud. When you get into the bigger boats or yachts, there's a few more steps that you need to be aware of. When you're turning a bigger boat into a tight boat slip, it's a little bit more challenging. So typically you'll find thrusters on the bow or stern, typically the bow, but if you spend a pretty penny, they could be on the stern. And basically what these do will push you left or right, towards or away from the dock. When you get into bigger boats or yachts, you want to put on a spring line. This is a line that is attached in the middle of your vessel on either side. Lastly, with bigger boats, there's a lot more bells and whistles, like sinks, showers, AC below deck, and even televisions. Now, you don't want to use your generator on the boat to power these things, so what you want to do is hook up to shore power and water. And that's the shtick of it. The main thing is just be comfortable with your vessel and how to operate it, and you'll be more than fine. You may have people watching, waiting for you to make a mistake, but just put your blinders on and do your thing. Congrats, you now know how to dock a boat. And now that we're tied off, it's time to tie one on, if you know what I mean.